This is the plaintiff, Nathaniel Washington. He says he hired the defendant to repair his upstairs bathroom. The guy worked on it for about 4 weeks, but left before the job was 100% done. When he approached the defendant about the missing tiles around the bathtub, he said he'd come back to finish the job. Then a few weeks later called him and told him he wasn't coming and he wasn't finishing anything. He has no other choice but to take him to court for the $300 he's owed, and that's just what he's doing here today. This is the defendant, Mark Weston. He says he warned the plaintiff there was a rotten subfloor below the tiles due to a flood the guy had. He told him if he wanted it repaired, it would cost him an additional $2,600. The man told him he didn't have that kind of money to fix the problem, would call him when he did, and then turned around and sued him. He's accused of not finishing up.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff hired the defendant to repair his bathroom, and the guy bailed on the job. But the defendant says the problem was that the subfloor was rotted, and the plaintiff didn't want to pay to fix it. It's the case of you're as rotten as my subfloor.
Thank you, Douglas. Nathaniel Washington.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are suing your former handyman, Mark's Handyman Services, represented here by Mark Weston. Okay. For $300 for a tiling job that you say was not completed. Tell me what's going on.
I hired Mark to replace the floor by the bathroom, by the tub.
What does replace a floor mean?
The floor was rotted,
Okay.
and I hired him to replace it. And from that
Wait,
point,
stop. You hired him to replace a rotted floor.
Yes.
Can I see the contract you have where you're hiring him to replace a rotted floor? Okay. For $300. Okay, this is a contract where you're hiring him to repair floor area next to bathtub, install tile backer subfloor, and customer supplied tile and grout to floor, approximately 45 square feet. Remove existing vanity and sink and install new customer supplied unit, $1,200. Okay. So this is for more. So I guess from that evolved him changing the vanity and whatever else he wanted changed.
yes, what happened was the job started off with him just doing the floor for $300. And then we included in that he would tile the floor and replace the vanity. And then when he came to do that, when he replaced the vanity, he says the pipes, he had to replace the pipes, so that made it $400 more.
Okay.
So it went to $1,600.
Right.
Yes.
And then what happened?
So he replaced the vanity, he tiled the floor up.
What kind of tile?
Ceramic
Okay.
tile. He ceramic tile up until about 2 feet from the bathtub, and he didn't do anything else. He just cut out the rotted part, and he didn't do the floor.
What did he say to you?
He said after we got to the bathtub, he wanted to take my bathtub out and replace it for $2,500.
Okay.
And that was when I said, I think I better get this guy out of my house. Because
you thought you were getting a new bathroom for $1,600 and now it's going to cost you three times
we
that.
started with $300 and ended up at $41.
Wait, in fairness, the job for $300 was one thing, and then you had to do a bunch of other stuff. All right, talk to me. Tell me your side of it.
So how do you protect yourself when you make a contract for somebody to repair your place to make sure that all of a sudden they say, oh, it's 5 times more than I thought it was going to be?
Well, you want to make sure you have a written contract first, and you also do a background check on the contractor, make sure he's licensed.
I got it, but what do you do in terms of the money to make sure it's not going to spin out of control?
Well, I think you should have a good negotiation.
But what do you say? I mean, how do you do it?
We have them come and look at the house first.
How do you do it? Anybody?
I'm a contractor.
What do you do?
Well, you have to have a contract, obviously.
Okay, but what do you do?
You always have to allow some extra money because in contracting job, there's always overtime, there's always over budget.
Spoken like a contractor going inside the courtroom.
Contracted to tile the floor and do some extras, put the vanity in. He knew there was an issue
Well,
next
wait,
to the
hold on one
bathtub.
second, because you just said, I contracted to tile the floor, but I'm looking at your contract, and what
Right.
it says is, repair floor area next to bathtub, and also tile the floor.
Right.
But it says repair floor area next to bathtub.
Right.
Okay.
He knew there was an issue there. I guess years ago there was an issue there. So we started tiling the floor. Once we got to the bathtub, we realized there was an issue under the bathtub. It must have been leaking for years and years and years. I have pictures of it all.
Yeah, let me see the picture.
So at that point, he already gave me a deposit, and we figured that we would tile the whole floor until the bathtub. And once he got the bathtub repaired, then we would finish the tile. So we left.
Yeah, but you say we. Who's we? That's
My
you.
guys, my guy.
Yeah, right. Okay. He was like, wait, what are you talking about? I thought I was going to have a finished bathroom for $1,600 because I understand. I come from a contractor family. I understand that sometimes there's hidden problems that you can't see. You, like a responsible contractor, actually put that in the invoice. Any extra labor and or materials may result in additional pricing. What you don't say, that's kind of what you should say. What you should really say is any hidden, we can't guarantee hidden, whatever, because you, unlike what I expected to see in this contract, I thought it was just going to say, hey, I'm a tile guy. I'm tiling the floor. But it actually says repair floor area next to bathtub. You quoted him a price for it, and then you didn't do it. So he wants a precious little amount back. He wants $300 back for that.
Well, what we did is when we stopped the tile, there was a square footage amount left. So I refunded him.
Is this the new tile?
No, that's a
linoleum.
That's a linoleum. That's the rot next to the top. That's the severity of it.
How'd you come up with the figure 300?
Because that's when
Originally it set up.
Yes, that's what he said, 300 to repair the floor. And then we added the rest of the stuff in to bring it up to 1,200.
Okay.
So I'm on the
So
same-
now you claim you were starting to tell me that you refunded him something. What did you
Right,
refund
for the
him?
tile that wasn't installed.
Yeah, but that's different. According to your own quote, that is a separate item you were hired for, to tile. You were also hired to repair, which you admit you didn't do.
That would be the subfloor. That would have been the
Yes,
tile
I know what
backer board.
subfloor is, but yes or no? Did you quote him a price of $1,200, which included repairing the floor?
Correct.
Did you repair the floor?
No.
All the guy wants is $300.
But I
don't
sent
understand
him
why you, I don't care that you already refunded him 100 and something for not tiling what you didn't tile, duh. But like what he wants is $300 back for not repairing the floor. And repairing the floor should be a much bigger chunk of that $1,200. That's what I'm not getting.
Well, we didn't know the extent of the damage until we lifted the linoleum up. I didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't quote a figure for repairing a floor. You don't know the extent of the damage.
That was my mistake. It was underneath the linoleum.
Right.
And obviously it's been leaking for years, so the right way to repair
I know.
it.
All you got to do is rip up the linoleum and you'd have seen it, right? And, yeah. All right. I'm going to order you to return the $300. Verdict for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
All right, full size one right there, please.
All right, so here he is, the defendant, after learning from the judge that you'll be paying that man back what you owe him. What's your reaction to this?
I gave him a refund. I guess somebody's always looking for something for nothing.
Well, you quoted a price on a job, and then you found out the job wasn't really what you expected it to be, right?
Right.
All right. And whose fault is that?
That's my fault.
Okay, so you admit that. $300, that's not so much for him.
No,
to pass
not too
back.
bad.
All right. Learn from that mistake, and you do okay. All right, so step in here. You satisfied how this winds up now?
Yes. Yes. You just have to be more careful when you choose people to work on your house.
What do you think the lesson in all of this is?
From now on, I'll make anybody that works on my house go downtown and get a permit, and so I'll have some other back.
Oh, you're going to do it the legal way from now on, huh?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. All right, over to Harvey then.
Okay. What he's not telling you is put a cap on what you can pay. Make him commit to a cap. That way you won't be badly surprised.